Hi there and welcome to Wine Searcher. This week on Thursday we had International Pinot Noir Day, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to try a classic Kiwi Pinot Noir Rangi from Martinborough in New Zealand's North Island. This is the 2019 vintage, and this is their standard release. They have a couple of single vineyard releases, but this is the estate wine, as it were. So Rangi, probably one of the better known wineries from Martinborough, one of the early established wineries. Planting started in the early 80s, Clive Patton. Some of the planting material he took quite famously was the Abel clone Pinot Noir that he brought from Gumboot, from the vineyards of a man called Malcolm Abel, who famously had confiscated it during his job as a customs officer at Auckland Airport, from somebody who'd liberated some cuttings from the vineyards of domain Romanée-Conti in Von Romney. Abel confiscated these because it was illegal to bring them into the country, but actually managed to acquire them legally. The owner decided to give them up and sign them over to him, and he had them propagated, and Abel planted them in his vineyard in Gumboot in the Auckland area. A few years later, Clive Patton, who established Rangi, was working for Abel, and he was the person who took these, who propagated from these vines and took the Abel clone to Martinborough, where it, because it's quite a cool region, it likes it, it performs well and produces some of the region's best wines. Rangi uses this particular wine, I think, is about 40% Abel clone, and then they have a diversity of clones. There's some others. There's clone 5 from Davis. There's 10 bar 5, another popular clone, and then they use a number of clones from Dijon in France. So a good array of clones. Their vineyards, mostly to the east of Martinborough, are on sort of deep river terrace gravel. So some of the best vineyards, they're nice free draining, just a little loam on the top, and then the gravel underneath allows free draining soils. The winemaking here, again, pretty typical for the way that a wine would be made in Burgundy. They retain about a third of the bunches as whole bunches, so not destemming them, so that helps prolong the fermentation and can give some lovely aromatics to the wine. What else? The wine then, after it's pressed, after a relatively short, about 3-week maybe maceration during the fermentation, it's then pressed off into barrel. It does its malolactic in barrel. About a third, about 35% of those barrels are new French oak, and it stays in there for 11 months. So you've got a reasonable oak influence to the wine as well, but quite a classic winemaking style. So to taste it, first of all, looking at it, its colour, it's got a lovely dark ruby pigmentation, but it's not got a great depth. I can see my hand quite clearly through it. So medium ruby red colour. Smelling it, the aromas are lovely, and they're inviting, they're intense. They're a combination of ripe red fruits, so you've got sort of a highly ripe red cherry before it gets into the sort of the black cherry level there. You've got sort of mulberry notes, possibly even notes of sort of high ripeness plum, almost to prune, but not over mature prune. There's still a lovely fresh red note to the fruit here, and following on from that, there's an earthy truffle, almost sort of mushroomy note as well. Quite classically like a developing Burgundy. Perhaps also a little tiny touch of cedary oak, but that's actually quite well integrated with the fruit on the nose. Tasting it, the wine's medium bodied, but it's got lovely fruit intensity, and it is this contrast of sort of intensity and elegance. You've got plentiful fine tannins that have this sort of, again, earthy, truffly note. There's almost begins to slightly dry out, but there's lovely fresh acidity, which is mouth-watering. There is that sort of ripe red cherry, mulberry, prune plum sort of notes to the fruit, and they're all beautifully integrated. And then just at the end you get sort of perhaps slightly cinnamon, cedar notes from the oak coming through there. The freshness means that the flavours are lasting nicely. The alcohol, it says it's only 13.5%, and it doesn't feel too hot. It adds a little weight and roundness to the end of the palate, but not a lot. So I've got a long, complex flavour that's finished, that's showing those sort of spicy flavours over this lively red fruit. Still a very young wine. I suspect the wine would quite happily age for 10 years, probably 15 if not more. But frankly, I think you'd have to be very patient to do that. You'd have to have a lot of self-control, because the wine is so appealing now. It has all the sort of the beautiful characteristics that you might expect from something from a classic vin Romanée from Burgundy or something like that. It's that sort of elegance and beautiful texture that make it very approachable now. So yes, well worth a try. Happy Pinot Noir Day, everybody. But this is at Rangi's 2019 Pinot Noir. Bye now.